question. On what planet do you think it's okay to take a Toyota Tacoma uphill on an icy hill in rock mode in 4 low? Think about that. Second question, on what planet do you think it's okay to do a 5-to-1 tactical downshift going 60 miles per hour? By now you've all seen it. Popular YouTubers destroying brand new 2024 Toyota Tacomas off-roading them. Let's start with the first one that everybody knows, where the ADD, essentially the locking collar on the axle, broke. What went wrong there? Well, it was an icy uphill road and the driver chose for some reason to be in 4 low in rock mode and then decide to floor it and hope and pray that nothing would break. But of course something did break, because you're not supposed to do that. Doesn't matter what we're driving, what vehicle, 4x4, whatever. When you're going uphill on a icy surface, you need to not be in low range. You need to be in high range, you need to have those wheels spinning, and you need less torque, not more torque. Rock mode by Toyota in the MTS selection is not a suggestion. You're supposed to be on rocks, not on ice, not in snow, on rocks. Those who off-road know that it was a disaster waiting to happen. You're not supposed to be configured like that at all. No matter what vehicle you're in, that's a recipe for disaster. And off-roading inherently requires a lot of personal responsibility, and that's what today's video is about. We got a lot of popular YouTubers being given press vehicles and then proceeding to destroy them, and then implying that they didn't do nothing wrong. Now, off-roading din-dos are nothing new. They've been around forever. It's not just limited to YouTubers and press people who review press vehicles. You get anybody out on the trail that's inexperienced, they do something wrong, the vehicle breaks, and then they go, it was the vehicle's fault. Well, 9 times out of 10, it's user error, and that's exactly what Toyota is basically saying when it comes to these two now viral failures of the 24 Tacoma. Now, we talked about the first one a little bit, we'll jump back to that, but the second one is even easier to explain, because it's simply a 5-to-1 tactical downshift, like a race car driver going from 5 to 1st at 60 miles per hour. You're not supposed to do that. Everybody knows that. And then here's the thing also. Toyota has inside all these vehicles, even these old ones, like this GX460, it's a 2021, but they have inside them essentially what amounts to a flight data recorder for cars. They know what gear the driver is in. They know that driver did a 5-to-1 downshift. They know that. It's recorded. There's no way around it. They know the speed at which the driver was going, 60 miles per hour. They know the engine RPMs. They know the pitch, the yaw, everything else, all the sensors are all recorded. They know what happened. All that was a mistake, and mistakes happen, and it's not about being perfect or not making mistakes. It's about owning up to your mistakes and not blaming the manufacturer when you do something that you shouldn't have done. Snow and low range don't mix. Every experienced off-roader knows that. If being in rock mode, going uphill on ice, sounds like a good idea, it just means you're not experienced. Nothing personal, it's just saying you're inexperienced. The experienced off-roader over here is going to get some speed going. You can hear the driver say, after he's having trouble getting up that icy hill, I'm going to bump it. That means bump, you want speed. That's off-road lingo for I want some more speed. Well, for low, the L in low range, the L means less speed, no speed, low speed. Already we're in opposition here. So rock mode, ice mode is opposition, but low speed, low range, and I'm gonna bump it, I want speed in low range. They're in opposition to each other, which is why you had a catastrophe. As you might have guessed, Toyota's solution to that disaster with the Tacoma snapping its axle on that icy road, their solution is to dumb down the traction control and basically make it foolproof. So you can't be in rock mode on a snowy or icy condition. basically the sensors inside are going to be reprogrammed, and it's going to be made to sense that same condition where somebody's in rock mode, even though they're on ice and snow. But anyway, they're in rock mode, and it senses that they're flooring it. You can hear the engine revs as it's being bumped in 4 low, going up. The engine goes before it snaps. Things don't go together. Okay, so Toyota is going to lock people out of that. And they're exactly right to do that, because that's not what you're supposed to do when you're off-roading. Now, you may be surprised to know, if you don't off-road, that there's rules to off-roading. There's lines that can't be crossed. There's laws that must be respected and obeyed, and that's just the way it is. Doesn't matter what it looks like, what kind of nonsense buttons it has, you have to obey those laws or there's going to be some trouble. Let's go back to the first one, okay, on the icy hill. One of the first things to tell if an off-roader is experienced is that they're not configured before they get into trouble. In other words, they're not in the right mode, whatever that needs to be. Locker, MTS, traction control, on or off, air down, air up, whatever you got to do. You have to be in that mode before trouble happens. You see automotive journalists taking these new trucks off-road all the time. They get to their first obstacle and they start pushing buttons and, well, let me try this mode and that mode, and let me try this, I'm going to do this, this will help it out, and blah, 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 blah. That's not what you do. You're supposed to be configured before you get into trouble. And if you're not configured before you get into trouble, it's no big deal. You're not in an airplane. Stop what you're doing, put it in reverse, and then get configured, whatever you got to do. In the case of the uphill snow axle disaster, the driver is in rock mode, number 1, so not configured. Number 2, starts doing crawl control. Not configured, number 2. Crawl control is not cruise control for off-roading. That prattle is so repeated ad nauseum and incorrect that I don't know how to describe it. Crawl control is to get you out of sand and mud. It is not off-road cruise control. Yes, I know Toyota doesn't help with the marketing here, but crawl control gets you out of a sand pit or mud pit. That's what it's supposed to do. You can look on YouTube for millions of examples. That's what crawl control is supposed to do. It's not supposed to get you up an icy hill. And then the third misconfiguration in this example is the I'm going to bump it in 4 low. Speed in low range, which again, of course, is direct opposition and is going to cause problems. The massive amount of torque in 4 low doesn't belong in an ice skating rink. Let's pretend you're on an ice skating rink and you're just in your street shoes or your flip-flops, okay? You're on ice, okay? Now, it's slippery. Forget about uphill, it's just flat, right? You're on ice. Now, how are you going to take off? Are you going to take off like a track star and really squat down and just thrust off with all your might? That's torque. That's a lot of torque. What's going to happen there is you're going to break your leg as you go like this and fall on your face, your teeth, or your legs. You're going to break something, okay? You're not supposed to use torque on a slippery surface. You will fall and break something. What do you do instead in that scenario? You're going to get up and you're going to do little itty-bitty duck walks like this. See this? You're not going to do torque. You're going to do little bitty steps. That's called speed. Speed and torque are reciprocals. When you go in 4 low, you give up speed for torque, and 4 high, vice versa. So you're going to do little baby steps. Less torque is going to get you moving on slippery surfaces. Rock mode is not that. Now, if the chief engineer of the Tacoma is listening, I'm going to be honest. You got to insist when you give press vehicles to YouTubers to try out, you got to put them through a basic off-roading education course. Yeah, that's right. Give them some sort of certificate. And if they claim something like, I've been doing this for 25 years, blah, 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 put them in a remedial course. Because anytime someone tries to quantify their experience by how many years they've been doing something, it means they're a slow learner. Your great-grandma, she's 100 years old. She doesn't know how to draw. She's had 100 years to learn how to draw, but she can't draw. 10-year-old Billy over there, who's been drawing only the last 5 years of his life, he can draw the Mona Lisa without even thinking about it. One has 5 years of experience, is 10 years old. The other one has 90 years of experience, is 100 years old. You get what I'm saying? Just because you have, I've been down this road before, I've done it a million times, blah, blah, that doesn't mean you know what in the devil you're doing. So when you're watching these off-road review videos of Tacomas or trucks or Subarus or whatever else, even road cars, and you see something go wrong, take it with a grain of salt. 9 times out of 10, it's user error. We've bashed the heck out of this thing. It just takes the stress out of the situation. Go ahead and get some aftermarket. Rock sliders kind of. And all that bashing happened in about 20,000 miles. That's all that's on this thing. We've bashed the heck out of it. We've broken the bottom of the transmission. I can't list how many things have broke. The hood striker broke, even the sunroof broke. So many things broke on this thing. And guess whose fault it was? It was Toyota's fault. They didn't design the vehicle strong enough like the previous generation. It was my fault. Own up to it. Do you know how many times I've left the e-brake on this thing off-roading and forgot to turn it off? Even though it's beeping at me telling, turn off the e-brake, turn off the e-brake. I didn't turn it off because that's my inexperience. And if the cable decides to snap one day, I'm not going to blame Toyota, I'm not going to blame Lexus or the engineers, or they don't make them like the last generation. I'm going to blame myself and try to get better. Somebody had to say this, okay? It's nothing personal, any one YouTuber. It's not all, most of them, okay? There are some YouTube car reviewers that can drive on and off road, and then you have a lot that just can't. That's okay. They make mistakes. That's normal. What's not okay is to blame the manufacturer or to imply that the vehicle is not built up to quality or quality standards. Yes, Toyota can foolproof things. They can lock people out of certain modes like MTS, being going up the Snowy Mountain in rock mode. They can do things like that. But ultimately, it comes down to the personal responsibility of the driver. I've driven this thing uphill in 4 high when I should have been 4 low and watched the transmission temperature go up. I've gone downhill when I was in 4 high in this thing when I should have been in 4 low engine braking and riding the brakes and smelling the brakes. There's all sorts of nonsense that one can do off-road, but most of the time it's going to be their own fault. So if you're considering a new Tacoma, the crap that you've seen and heard on the internet about the transmission braking or the axle braking is nonsense. It's user error. Those drivers made mistakes. Mistakes are fine, but that's what they were, mistakes. And you have to take personal responsibility for your mistakes and not blame the manufacturer when you make a mistake. So if you're in the market for a Tacoma, keep that in mind. And there's only so much a manufacturer can do to idiot-proof or foolproof drivers from making mistakes, especially when it comes to the type of vehicles that give you a lot of control. I'm talking about a manual transmission. There's no electronic ECU to block you out of doing the money shift like on an automatic transmission like here. On a manual transmission, on a 6-speed manual, you're in control. If you do the money shift, that's up to you. On an off-roading vehicle, you're in control of 4 low, 4 high, locker, front locker, center locker, rear locker, MTS, traction control off, air down, air up, and whatever the heck else you're doing. You're in control of that. And they can only babysit you so much. After that, you're on your own. Toyota, get these drivers in some sort of actual on or off-road driving course before you lend them your vehicles.